park seems dark, silvery moon is shining through the trees.
Every downtown has an identity, a character that is sometimes hard to define. A person returning to his hometown after a long absence can feel it even if he or she cannot name it. It can be called a sense of place.
When you go into these downtowns and you see beautiful architecture and pocket parks, it's their signature. It's not cookie-cutter development. The designers left their stamp. Preserving these neighbourhoods creates a sense of pride and helps communities maintain their integrity and image.
You're giving away your future prosperity if you approve ugly development or fail to protect what people love about you.
Park seems dark, silvery moon is shining through the trees. Cast to me, you, sound of kisses floating on the breeze.
Hello, I'm Robert Hurst, Vice President of the Historical Society and President of the Appliance Center, a business that's been here for over 79 years. Since the beginning of the millennium, a series of events and experiences inspired me to embark on the study that's presented in this film. In the early 2000s, while I was member of the Downtown Improvement Board, I would receive these proclamations from the city. And some of them went like this: in order to preserve the historic character of the downtown, etc., etc., etc. Yet at the same time that I saw this, I also saw the destruction of some of our historic buildings in the downtown. And for me, every time one of these historic buildings was destroyed, a little bit of that historic character disappeared. Did the city really know what they were talking about when they said historic downtown character? The downtown character needed to be defined. Then came the city's efforts to rebuild the marina and the Sonnenblick proposals. Bob Sonnenblick came up with a plan to develop the marina, and I became rather concerned about the type of architecture that he was going to use down there. I saw some of the proposals, and they looked like they were completely out of line with the other character of the downtown. And after all, the marina was an extension of the downtown. Then came the destruction by Hurricane Michael of so much of the downtown. An urban planner, Dover Cole, come in, did an excellent job of planning it, and here was a chance to rebuild our downtown in the same architecture of its glory days. I myself was faced with the dilemma of my building. It had been devastated by Hurricane Michael, and I had to consider how to build it. Well, the original facade was a very monotonous layer of brick upon layer, and I wanted to do something different. For these reasons, I attempted in an article in 2021 to define the true architectural character of the downtown. Well, I had little architectural knowledge really, except that I had studied Middle Eastern archaeology, and I knew something about Middle Eastern architecture. And also, I knew the history of these old buildings. I had at least studied that aspect of these buildings, and for that reason, I wanted to somehow influence the downtown owners and developers to build and preserve the true architectural character of our downtown.
The era of brick business buildings has arrived in Panama City. The erection of the fine building of the Panama City Bank awakened many to the fact that the time had arrived for the building of more permanent and a better class of building blocks.
That awakened time, as G.M. West proclaimed, has been reawakened here in our downtown. It is a revival, a renewed interest in the brick vernacular architecture that graced our storefronts in the war years of the 1910s, 1920s, and 1930s. It is manifest in the restoration of original facade and the alteration of others. It is partly a consequence of the revisioning that our community underwent after the devastation that Hurricane Michael wrought. However, the seed was planted many years before Hurricane Michael by the vision of Trigo San Francisco owner John Cady and architect Mehdi El Meski.
Actually, I'm Egyptian by born. I born in Egypt, and I study architecture in Egypt, which is in Faculty of Fine Arts. And also I came to America here to the United States in 1971, so closer to 55 years now maybe. I've been citizen since 1975. I study in Pratt Institute in New York.
What projects have you done around Panama City?
I did a quite number of them, either by myself or I joined some others for doing that. For instance, downtown we did the first version of the streetscape in 1997, and then we did the gateway, 6th Street Gateway, and also I did the Beach Drive Gateway and the Arch. I did also Trigo, which was really very important project, and I feel like it was really a break point for me to express how you can actually get the building looks historical with using the brick, because I believe in the brick, and the brick, it's the one who's really make the downtown historical. And I've been here since 1990, as I said, and I saw some other buildings who actually being covered by stucco and other materials, and really people, they feel that is they are going to get a good brick, good looking. But in my opinion, brick, the natural material, it really gives the building beauty and really make it more valuable, more value, another word.
About Trigo, so kind of walk me through the design process, and what considerations do you have to consider when designing with brick?
Okay, just a small history about it is actually I've been approached by one of the commissioner, I can't remember his name now, but actually he asked me to redesign. They want to open Trigo as a delicatessen store, and at this time the building was not have nothing at all in it, and also outside is just elevation wise it was nothing, it's just a skeleton. And what we did is I felt that is first you have to give impression that the building to relate to the streetscape, and I designed the streetscape of Panama City, so the brick was going to blend very well with the streetscape at this time. And actually I feel that is the first thing to do is you need to it was a good application because the building was really empty. So we did actually get make the design as you see it now, which is it's some kind of California, it's some kind of giving some kind of historical look and also modern at the same time by utilizing some of the natural stone in it. And what I did in the design, we put all the brick in the facade and behind the sign Trigo, and we build on that. And then we start to work on side of the building itself. We exposed some of the brick inside and the counter and the rest of the architecture design floor plan. Actually, we did that. But to go to your question, the most important thing is really when you look to renovate building, which was originally brick, then I will try to look to every detail in the building and try to keep it as a historical and maybe enhance it and maybe try to form the elevation to contain these details and to bring, if there are historical background behind the building, I try to make the building talk about this, about the history of the building itself. That is very important. Otherwise, you just design it as architect, as a normal way you do it.
What do you think that people need to consider, like owners and builders and stuff like that, and architects? What do they need to consider when doing a restoration downtown?
I think that is, for doing restoration downtown, I believe that you have to go and find out about the history of the street itself, and also how the building blend in the street. So you have to know what the history of the area, and then you find out about the particular building, and then you start to preserve the historical element in it. You start to actually look to bring the building to its originality, in other words. Not to hide it, because really what downtown is, people here are struggling normally how we can make downtown looks good, how make it people to come. People in the United States here, from my visitation to many cities, like Savannah and others, you can see the history inside the downtown area. You can see the building, it start to become, I mean, people design it in a way or restore it again to its own originality. And I feel it's very important they have to have a design guideline for the downtown main street or for the downtown area. And what they have now is not really a design guideline. What they have is a design guideline for signage, some colors, some signage, you know how to do it. No, the design guideline is you have to go the whole process of the history of the street, the history of the area. You have to study the building originality, the windows, where it was original is. And then you have to, I'm not saying that you not add things to it. No, you add things, but the majority of things have to be kept in its own originality, in the same original looks. That is what the major element is. Whatever you're adding is to enhance that or to make it more come out.
The imprint of El Mesqui is further seen in his gateway of the downtown. It incorporates the features of earlier times. Note the brick frame sign, the arches with a keystone, the occasional use of rowlocks to break the monotony of horizontal stretchers, and the lesson also to break the monotony of just a solid brick wall. The white keystones are not usually seen in earlier times. So brick construction in downtown Panama City began in 1910 with the building of the Bank of Panama City at 100 Harrison Avenue. Horizontal protruding layers of locally made tan brick around the cornice was the only ornamentation evident in this partially standing building. A fire destroyed the second story. Moving on up Harrison, we have the Wilkerson Building at 200 Harrison Avenue. This building was built in 1914 and had protruding brick designs very similar to the one at the old bank. Structural sandstone was used on the window lintels and sills. The early photo of the building, called then the Panama Jewelry, notice the horse, the watering trough, and tree that seems to be in the middle of the road. Panama Jewelry Company was owned by E.H. Wilkerson. In the early 20s, it was the hub of business and political activity, with town council meetings held on the north side and a post office and a telephone company in the rear and upstairs, respectively. And this building now has been remodeled with stucco. The height of brick construction in the 1910s is manifest in the old Panama City High School at 107th Street, built in 1914 to 1915. Ornamental lintels and arches above windows and doors of the school were achieved by rowlocks. The mason used light-colored brick with stretchers and protruding headers to ornament a frieze along the cornice. This 1926 photo of the 100 block of Harrison Avenue illustrates that brick construction had become the dominant building material of the 1910s. From right to left are the former Bank of Panama City, later Sudeth Realty. It was built in 1910 to 11. Next is the L.H. Howell Building, home of Chericola Bottling Works. It was built in 1912. Next is the Dr. J.I. Darby Building, home of Hare's Department Store. It was built in 1912. Next is Sims Drugstore, later Daffin Drugs, built 1914. Followed by the Gay Building, built 1914. And in the next block, E.H. Wilkerson's Panama Jewelry Company is shown, built 1914. Out of the dozen or so buildings erected in the 1910s, one has been demolished, 5 have been stuccoed, but thankfully 4 remain preserved, and 2 have been remodeled in the old vernacular style.
I'm sitting on top of the world.
Height of brickwork is evident in the buildings that remain in the 1920s. Most of the dozen or so buildings that I have been able to identify from this decade were built in the year 1926. Few remain in their original appearance. 75% have had their character erased with stucco. Built in 1926, the Folks Building was named for its owner, W.L. Folks. Its brick exterior used all the techniques that were displayed before, such as friezes and protruding brick. Bichrome colors of red and tan, headers and stretchers, verticals and horizontals are used as trim near the cornice and window lintels. Commercial Bank at 227 Harrison Avenue was another of the many building projects of 1926. It was built by the prominent contractor J.R. Asbel. Banking President J.D. Sellers opened its doors on June 23, 1926. Those doors of bronze still survive today. The facade had an exterior plinth of Indiana limestone. The bank's facade utilized a monochrome buff brick, only with a few white trim features. A unique, almost herringbone design was used in panels above the cornice. The facade also displays the unique slanted brick pattern on panels near the top of the facade. Common brick motifs are also found on the contemporary Moore Building, perhaps indicating the works of the same mason. Now we're moving on to 28 West Beach Drive, the J.E. Moore Building. The building's facade exemplifies typical decorations of the 1920s. Soldiers and sailors were dominant in the design. Note the pair of diamond motifs, which are revived in the recently remodeled McNeil Carroll Building. Moving on to the 1930s, we see a slight decline in brickwork, but it was still fairly dominant. This was a time when we see Art Deco come into use in the downtown. And of course, Art Deco had very little use for brick. There were, however, several buildings of the 30s worthy of mention. There was also one new element introduced into the brick buildings of the downtown. The two buildings in the first block of West Oak Avenue illustrate the stepped or crow-step gable and the customary brick-framed rectangular sign space above. Constructed in 1932, these are two remaining of three buildings that used to face Oak Avenue. Note the unusual brick detail between the sign space and the gable. The beautiful Coca-Cola building at 238 West 5th Street displays the beautiful Cape Dutch gable. The building's brick facade was once glazed, and the bottle at the top was gold-coated. The bottle's background was probably colored red. Lastly, the Page building at 122 West 4th Street should be mentioned. A.W. Page built this with 4 storefronts on the ground floor and 15 offices above. Sold to the Carpenters Union in 1941 during World War II, on the upper facade of the building, ornamentation was achieved with tan brick bands of headers and stretchers, as well as a cross-like motif in white brick. The second floor windows' ornamental lintels were done in 2 courses of tan brick headers. These features have recently been exposed underneath a white stucco cover added in the 1970s. Moving to the present, property and store owners have not been content to just restore their old brickwork. Several have remodeled their storefronts to replicate the 1920s and 1930s look. We are going to move from Panama City to St. Andrews and talk just a little bit about the tap room. I have to bring this building into a play because of the intricate, delicate brickwork that was done in this building. Owner Kim Bottomley hired a mason that did a remarkable job of imitating the original stucco Cape Dutch or Flemish gable by substituting an intricate brickwork design. A white brick was chosen with headers used to make the frieze at the cornice. The Cape Dutch gable, though more ornate, recalls the downtown buildings of the 1930s. This type gable has more recently been carried to the extreme in the buildings at nearby Alice Beach. Built in the 1970s, the Appliance Center at 21 West Oak Avenue once had just a monotonous row upon row of red brick. Inspired by advice from architect Michael Higdon and the remodeled City Hall, the building now displays the classic look by using the plinth course and soaring lessons. Off-white brick replaces sandstone lintels and block plinth to achieve the same effect. The classic look on a large scale is to be found at 501 Harrison Avenue in the recently remodeled building that was to become the City Hall with large arched windows and entrance. Again, a total use of brick illustrates how well it can replace block and sandstone in lintels and plinth courses. Courses of off-white roll-locks on top of stretchers made up the plinth. Arches are done with courses of roll-lock or headers. The remodeled MacDill Carroll building at 475 Harrison Avenue displays the classic brick-framed design sign. Displays are achieved with stretchers and soldiers. Note again the diamond motif. Most stone and stucco are used for the plinth and frieze rather than brick. Finally, the stucco buildings on the east side of 300 block of Harrison Avenue have been recently redone in red brick or with white brick. Tasteful simplicity is achieved in this recently remodeled building at 300 Harrison Avenue. Built in 1914 as Panama City's first motion picture theater, it may have been the first stucco building erected here. 1 lesson, 2 show windows, an entry alcove, and arch are all that were needed to break the monotony of a new solid brick veneer.
This brick we did bust all of the stucco off of, and you can see how it left the surface just completely torn up. But we still enjoy that better than stucco. But this particular brick we had to resurface the stucco. So this is an old Chicago brick, but it's on top of stucco. Same with this. This is the old Cook Motor Company, and when we attempted to break the stucco off of the brick, it just tore it to shreds, and so we had to come with a fresh brick on top. Well, this is the the interior wall of the Cook Motor Company, and so next door is the exterior wall of that building from 1930. Hey, how are you? We're just looking at your brick wall. Thank you. So that's
what is this written here?
Certified lubrication. This was the shop area for the Cook Motor Company. That opening was a roll-up door, garage door. These floors are just the original old subfloor.
And what would have this been on? This wall would have been?
That's the Cook Motor Company.
So this
Exterior
is the
wall.
Exterior.
Uh-huh.
And what about this concrete, smooth like plaster? What's the story with that?
You know, I don't know between the two buildings which one was built first, but you can see how well attached that plaster is. It's just impossible to remove without tearing the brick up. Brick actually gets brittle with age.
In some cases, a stucco makeover may have been the only practical thing to do, and some are even tasteful and complement the brick vernacular. Even the Art Deco has its place in the downtown. After all, what would the downtown be without the Martin Theater? Still, a town needs a character. It needs a sense of place. Tragically, we had begun to lose that status as we altered some of our best brickworks. Thankfully, that trend has now been reversed, and the Renaissance has begun.
Don't want any million, I'm getting my share. I've only got one suit, just one, that's all I can wear. A bundle of money won't make you feel gay. A sweet little honey is making me say, I'm sitting on top of the world, just rolling along.